Buenas noches, Mexico, and good evening to our international viewers tuning in. My name is Hamza Eric, and this is a special edition of Hablamos Mexico, broadcasting live from Mexico City. Today's debate will focus on finding solutions to the ongoing Mexican drug crisis. For our viewers on Twitter and Facebook, make sure you tag your questions with the hashtag Hablamos Mexico. Joining us today are 6 guests who represent various groups involved in the conflict. First is representative of the Mexican government, Attorney General Raul Cervantes Andrade.
Thank you.
Second, from the vigilantes, we have Santiago Munez. We also have Admiral Vidal Sobreon Sanz,
Thank you for having
the
me.
Secretary of the Navy, representing the Mexican military. We also have Ms. Lisa Sanchez, a leading human rights activist. Representing the U.S. Marshal Service, we have Deputy Brady, who operates the anti-drug missions on both sides of the border.
Good evening.
And lastly, we have a representative from the Beltran-Leyva Drug Organization, Mr.
Bullet. Just call me Bullet.
Welcome, Mr. Bullet, coming to us live feed from an undisclosed location. Thank you all for joining us to discuss the ongoing war on drugs in Mexico. Let us start off by playing this video that has sparked a lot of controversy and attracted a lot of attention. Take a look. The clip you just saw was recorded on February 9th, when the leader of the Beltran-Leyva cartel and 11 other affiliate cartel members were annihilated by the Mexican Navy. What is the Mexican military justification for using an Apache helicopter in an urban area?
Well, before I begin, I would like to thank our brave Marines for their continued service to their country. With regards to the footage we have seen, we had no choice but to take the duties of the police due to the intensity of the situation. We had to reduce the level of aggression to eliminate any risk.
This is exactly
of
the kind of risk
civilian
that
and federale
endangers
casualties.
everyone's lives. Mexican citizens should not have to live in fear.
Please let me finish. It was a tough call, but we had no choice but to use the helicopter in the situation. We operated in accordance with military guidelines and suffered 0 civilian casualties.
Regardless of this particular event, Admiral, President Calderon's war on drugs has led to an increase in violence, deliberately targeting Mexican citizens.
So there seems to be a lot of human rights abuses in this conflict. What is the government's response in protecting innocent civilians in this conflict?
Yes, thank you, Hamza. Well, Ms. Sanchez, the government is working closely alongside the military with the ultimate goal of protecting civilians. There was an immediate threat posed to the people living in that region, so the government is in the firm belief that the Navy acted properly. Also, this is firm evidence that we are gaining grounds from the cartels.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Mr. Bullet, thank you for being here this evening. What's your views on the government's claims?
Ha! Excuse me, Attorney General, gaining grounds? As I see it, the livelihoods of Mexican citizens are depending on organisations such as ours. 500,000 people work for us. Are you suggesting that in order to resolve the conflict, you should employ military helicopters all across the country?
If necessary, we will.
We're too powerful. You escalating the violence towards us has as much effect as putting out fire with tequila.
Okay, let's bring this down, shall we? This war affects both sides of the US-Mexican border. Deputy Brady?
Thank you, Hamza. Mr. Bullet, these employees that you refer to, are you talking about individuals like that 14-year-old kid from San Diego who you deliberately drugged and threatened into becoming a head-chopping cartel assassin? Tequila or no tequila, Mr. Bullet, our work with the Mexican security services have been extremely successful. We have jailed, extradited, or killed 25 out of 37 of the drug traffickers on the government's most wanted list, and decommissioned more than 110,000 tons of cocaine during Calderon's term alone. I'm sorry to say, Mr. Bullet, but you're on the back foot here.
Does the Attorney General want to make a comment?
Yes, indeed. Our cooperation with the US has been very fruitful. It is obvious that the drug trade has had a lot more negative impact on the country than positive. Although the cartel has claimed to have provided thousands of jobs, we believe that those jobs are unsustainable and cannot aid the livelihood of the Mexican population.
What? You say the jobs we provide aren't sustainable, but at least we provide them. The Mexican people had to start taking care of themselves because you didn't care. And now you're trying to make it out like we're the bad guys. We know it and you know it. Our business is what keeps this country's people afloat.
Deputy Brady, do you have something to say?
Yes, thank you. I think it's interesting how you try to avoid the real issue here by bringing in your flourishing provision of jobs. Let's think instead about the number of people whose lives you've eradicated. Since 2007, almost 200,000 people have been murdered and nearly 30,000 reported as disappeared.
Lies!
You won't even let the young people out of it. I think I can speak for everyone in the studio and the whole population when I say that we shall never forget about the abduction of the 43 students that happened in 2014.
Of which the Mexican government were also implicated in.
You make about $29 billion every year from the US market alone. And so
okay.
please explain to us,
Alright.
how is that money benefiting those in need?
So there's the key word, US market. You're not concerned about the ongoing violence in Mexico, huh? You're trying to find a scapegoat for the drug addiction in the US. Well, guess what? Your problem is not the supply, but the demand. Drugs will always come from somewhere, and the Americans are not going to stop demanding it even if you win the war on drugs.
It seems to me that we aren't getting anywhere with this. The vigilante spokesperson hasn't spoken yet. Mr. Munez?
Thank you. Let me begin by saying that it's very clear that we are part of the solution. Firstly, by bringing justice to areas of the country where the government has continuously failed to provide security. Secondly, by building a movement within the local community, we are able to restrict and stop the cartel's recruitment and income networks, cutting off the head of the snake. Lastly, we are a huge reserve force available to the Mexican military and to the Mexican government that may prove an effective measure at protecting communities and borders.
An increase in violence will not make the issue better, Mr. Munez. We believe that all parties of the conflict that carry out unlawful acts should be brought to justice legitimately and not just killed in public to make a point. Besides, the vigilantes acting by violent means will only make the issue worse.
And you say all this from the comfort of your office. Have you looked outside? Well, the cartels are hugely destructive, as we all know. They have killed 70,000 people since 2006 and kidnapped 700, I should say, since 2015. With all this in mind, and also higher ransoms as well, they continue to rise, such as the case of farmer Jesus Manuel Guerrero, who was only released after $120,000 was paid. With all this in mind, it seems that violence is the only approach available to us.
Mr. Andrande, what do you think of the vigilantes' role in the war? Do you think that there could be some cooperation between your two parties?
Well, yes, we believe that the government and the vigilantes can work together and can be a legitimate force in the future. However, currently they're uncontrollable and they pose a potential risk to the Mexican people.
We are the Mexican people, Attorney General. We are glad to hear, though, that you are willing to broker response again. But will you turn on us like you have done in the past? Especially with the corruption that exists in the national government. We are worried that whether you'll be able to provide security to us, our families, and to our supporters. And Mrs. Sanchez, I want to say that it is true that our tactics may be extreme, but they try to be as humane as possible, given the increasing violence of the cartels.
Mr. Munez, I give you my word. Whether the government turns on you or not, we will continue to support you. We cannot fully guarantee the safety of your people. However, we will do everything in our power to achieve that to its fullest extent.
The vigilante groups think that they provide stability and protection where the government fails, but they only create more violence. However, the government should employ the vigilantes as a community police force and provide them with the necessary support and training needed.
This is true.
But we all know this will not happen because of corruption within the government.
We're not here to talk about allegations of corruption, are we?
Okay, before moving on, let's see how our audience is reacting to our debate via our power bar. We asked them, who is the most to blame for the conflict? The cartels and the government appear to stand accused. Mr. Attorney General, you have just been heavily criticized by the human rights activists and by our viewers. Would you like to respond to providing a solution on how to end this war?
Yes, thank you. Well, they can criticize our government all they want, but we are here to find a solution. We already focused on programs that will stabilize the country. I want to say that we already proposed working together with the vigilantes. However, they have not agreed fully with our conditions, and we do not agree with the tactics proposed for them.
No choice. We have made every effort to extinguish and exhaust, but every option that seems to just increase the violence that the cartels bring to us. The most effective way of ending the violence is for the government and for the vigilantes to track down and kill the key members of the cartels. I want to say we should target these officials with full aggression. This will limit the effectiveness of the cartels and eventually they will dissolve.
Well, we acknowledge your efforts. Whatever, you need to keep in mind that you need to focus on protecting civilians as well, rather than just solving violence with violence.
In this case, sir, you must work out whether to use this as a deterrent or as a peacekeeping force.
Well, whatever our tactics will be, we need to implement programs and attempt to reach an agreement with the cartels as well, rather than trying to exterminate them. Also, I want to mention that our cooperation with the US is vital in this matter.
Like the Attorney General just mentioned, the US government is continuously doing what it can to help the Mexican government in its fight to end this war. Not only have we donated more than $1.5 billion through the Merida Initiative since 2008, another $1 billion has been agreed to by Congress.
But, madame, this is all money that lies in the hands of corrupt officials in Mexico
That is
City.
nonsense. That is nonsense.
They should instead focus on spending that money on their border. Only then can you cut the income routes the cartels use.
Mr. Munez raised a very good point here. President Donald Trump has made increased border security a top policy position. What is your stance, Deputy Brady, on border security?
Well, one of the biggest problems that we face right now is the speed with which these cartels spread their influence within the United States. And of course, Mr. Munez is correct by saying that we need to strengthen our borders. Perhaps Trump's idea of a wall is not such a bad one after all, especially considering that the drug cartels have spread their influence from 250 cities in 2008 to more than 1,000 today.
But this is not only a cross-border issue, Deputy Brady.
Of course not,
We
but
need
it's
to make
important.
sure that the Mexican government is clean before any change can happen. Clearly, the cartels are not going to voluntarily leave Mexico and relinquish their control over the government.
Exactly.
On Transparency International's corruption index, the Mexican government scored 30 out of 100. That is shameful. Cartels have infiltrated the government and led it to become ineffective and corrupt.
I agree with you there, Ms. Sanchez. We hope that the government will be able to eradicate corruption within the police. Only then can the police combat the drug cartels without assistance from the military.
Exactly. And what is more, if the government works correctly, the cartels will exercise less control.
So the idealist has spoken. Miss Sanchez, you're forgetting the strength of our organisation. Anyways, we are the only ones who are actually taking care of the society because the government doesn't. You may not agree with our methods, but as the video showed, they're no worse than the ones used by the authorities. If the government hadn't done such a poor job in the first place, there would be no use for us.
Mr. Bullitt, I'm afraid I need to cut you off as we are approaching the end of our time. Representatives, your 30-second closing statements, please. Mr. Attorney General, would you mind going first?
Yes, I want to first say to all of you that the government is acting in accordance with the law. Also, our government was the first Mexican government to establish a National Anti-Corruption Commission, which is working diligently towards resolving this particular issue. What you need to understand is the lack of support and trust within the Mexican community makes it much more hard for us to implement reforms and strategies to end the violence.
Can I go now?
Also, we are in a pressing need of finding a solution that will reduce the violence and will guarantee the safety of our citizens. And I can assure you that the government is working diligently towards reaching that goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the ones who exist at the heart of this crisis, we know the violence of the cartels all too well. Given the ineffectiveness of the corrupt government in Mexico City, we have no choice but to continue on our own on the front line of community protection.
Ms. Sanchez?
We believe that the key to peace is through education and dialogue. We should support the many brilliant domestic and international organizations working within Mexico and that are strengthening the community saying no to cartels. Human rights organizations cannot be successful if the government is corrupt and weak, and especially under circumstances of extreme violence as carried out by the cartels.
I'd like to end by saying that the Mexican military is a fundamental supporter of human rights. However, right now, justice must be served with force. With that said, Mr. Cartelman, you must know that your days are numbered. The Mexican people are fed up with your violence and will show no mercy in removing you like the tumor that you are.
Ooh, strong words there from the Admiral. Would he live up to his expectations for all that threat? Deputy Brady?
You know what? I'll just be very brief and just say that the US-Mexican cooperation is only improving. And in fact, Mr. Bullitt, my last point goes to you. You better watch out. We know where you are.
You know where I am? Unlikely, bitch. We base our organisation on loyalty, and we don't kill people without reason, as opposed to the police. Wait, what? What the?
Mr. Bullitt, I suppose we lost connection. We've come to the end of our show now. So it's clear to us that there are opposing views on both sides of the conflict. Oh, I'm hearing now we have breaking news. Over to Mr. Pedro.
Are we rolling? Yes? Alright. Thank you, Hamza. We're live here inside the secret hideout of Mr. Bullet, who has now been filled as a notorious drug dealer, Pablo Narcos. Recently, he was apprehended in a joint operation by Mexican and US forces. It is believed that around 26 tons of cocaine was found, which is valued at £2 billion. Here we go now. Mr. Narcos, do you have anything to say for yourself?
Fuck you, fuck off.
Mr. Narcos,
Nah,
Mr. Narcos,
Get the fucking press
anything
out of
more to say?
No
Get the
comment,
fucking press
fuck
out of here
off.
right now. Get the fucking press out of here.
Come on, let's go. Well, we apologize for the strong language. It appears that it's a bit hectic right now and things are a bit toxic. But stay with us alive as things develop. Back to you, Hamza.
Shocking. What implications will this have for the future of the conflict? This conflict is far from over. Will the government engage the cartels or continue fighting them? Thank you to our participants and our studio audience. I am Hamza Eric, and you've been watching Hablamos Mexico. Good night, folks.